Welcome to Standard 5A. The goal of our presentation is to describe the location and development of the Ottoman Empire. Let's take a look at our essential question that we're hoping to answer, which is where was the Ottoman Empire located and how did it expand? Some essential understanding to help us answer that question. The Ottoman Empire began emerging as a political and an economic power after it captured Constantinople in 1453. We discussed that a little bit in Standard 4A and mentioned that was one of the events that kicked off the European age of exploration when the Ottomans cut off the trade routes to Asia. But for the Ottomans themselves, this was a huge event, the capture of Constantinople. Militarily, it showed their power. The Ottomans were one of the gunpowder empires, one of the first to adopt and use gunpowder militarily. We see in this picture one of the guns, one of the cannons that the Ottomans used in the siege of Constantinople. For centuries, Constantinople had been assumed to be an unconquerable city. It had these huge, thick walls around it that most assumed there was no way an army could get through. But now with the invention of the cannon, with its use on the battlefield, the Ottomans had about 70 of these cannons, and for the 6 weeks or so that they were attacking Constantinople, these cannons fired, some historians estimate, about 20,000 times at the walls. And no walls were going to be able to withstand that kind of constant bombardment. Okay, so the cannons and the use of gunpowder were part of the Ottomans' military power. Economically, it was also part of their power as well, because now with the capture of Constantinople and its location on the trade routes to Asia, this gave the Ottomans kind of prime real estate on the trade routes. So economically as well as militarily and politically, the Ottomans now emerged as a major power. Okay, another piece of essential understanding that helps to know is that the Ottomans, the territory and lands they brought under their control were largely areas where Islam was the majority religion. Okay, they brought Muslim lands under their control and unified them under one power. Areas of Southwest Asia, North Africa were areas where you had majority Muslim populations, and Islam is going to play a major role in the development of this empire. Here we have 5 pieces of essential knowledge that we need to know for the Ottomans. The first is that it originates, or it begins, in Asia Minor. Okay, Asia Minor refers to this area, really modern-day Turkey. And if we think of that term minor, whether you're in the minor leagues in sports, whether someone has a minor traffic ticket, even somebody who's considered legally a minor, okay, it's the opposite of big, minor meaning small or little. The Greeks termed this area Asia Minor because it was the area of Asia that they were familiar with. It was Little Asia, not the huge expansive land that is Asia, just the area that was in their neighborhood. In 1300, we can see the Ottoman Empire is just this little area of green, a very small area, but that's going to expand very rapidly. Okay, our second piece of essential knowledge is that the Ottoman Empire is going to expand, as we said, very rapidly into places like North Africa, Southwest Asia, and Southeastern Europe. We can see 150 years after the last map, the Ottomans are on the verge of capturing Constantinople in 1453. Okay, over 100 years later, we can see that little area of green in 1300 is now expanded into a huge empire, almost surrounding the Mediterranean Sea. We see the Ottomans expand into the northern part of Africa. We see the Ottomans expand down into southwestern Asia, and we see them expand into southeastern Europe. Geographically, this area of Europe where Greece and a lot of those countries ending in IA in Europe, Albania, Macedonia, Romania, Bulgaria, these areas occupy a piece of land called the Balkan Peninsula. Okay, so the Balkan Peninsula in southeastern Europe areas of Southwest Asia and across North Africa were all part of the Ottoman Empire. Our third piece of essential knowledge is a political one. The Ottomans, when they captured Constantinople, they changed the name from Constantinople to Istanbul. You can recall from your World I class that Constantinople took its name from Constantine, the Roman emperor, who started the Eastern Roman Empire. The Ottomans, when they arrived, were making a statement. Okay? They don't know Constantine. Constantine wasn't their guy. Okay, so they changed the name from Constantine's city, Constantinople, to Istanbul. Some historians think that the name is a play on a phrase "to the city," and that the bull is kind of a shortening of the Greek word polis. Okay, and so literally the Ottomans were so into capturing Constantinople that "to the city" had become kind of a rallying cry for them. And so one explanation for the name, the city is still called Istanbul today, could come from this. Okay, our fourth piece of essential knowledge is a social and religious one. Islam was the unifying religion of this empire. It was a very large and diverse empire when we consider areas like southeastern Europe, southwestern Asia, North Africa, a lot of different languages, a lot of different backgrounds, but Islam as a religion held this empire together and unified it. That's not to say Islam was the only religion in this area, but the Ottoman Empire was generally tolerant of the religious minorities within it. Okay, and they were largely Eastern Orthodox Christians, Jews, and Roman Catholics living in these areas. The Ottomans did require them to pay a tax. But when we consider that, when we compare that to what was going on, say, in Europe at the same time during the Reformation, where religious intolerance was more the norm, the Ottomans are generally regarded historically as very tolerant of religious differences within the empire. Okay, we see here in this mosaic the leader of the Ottoman Empire meeting with the leader of the Greek Orthodox Christians in the empire. Okay, and then our last piece of knowledge here is an economic one. There are two products, both begin with the letter C, that the Ottomans are noted for trading. Okay, first, we're here in a coffee shop for the coffee, which the Ottomans traded. The coffee bean is kind of native to parts of Africa around Ethiopia, but it was first cultivated in large amounts on the Arabian Peninsula, which was part of the Ottoman Empire. In fact, one of the more common coffee beans is the Arabica bean, and Arabica coming from Arabian. You might also know the word mocha when it comes to coffee, mocha, frappuccino, things like that. Mocha is a port city in modern-day Yemen on the Arabian Peninsula, also part of the Ottoman Empire. Okay, so the culture and the society of the Ottoman Empire did have a large part to do with coffee. Islam has a prohibition on alcohol, so the coffee shop as a social gathering place, as opposed to the bar or the tavern or the pub in Europe, the coffee houses of Istanbul and throughout the Ottoman Empire were really the social gathering places. Okay, we see in this illustration Ottomans enjoying coffee. It's not surprising that ceramics, my cup's actually made out of paper, but a lot of times coffee mugs are made out of ceramics. It's that pottery that has a little bit of a shine to it. They put a glaze on the pottery when it's made and then bake it in an oven or a kiln at high temperatures. And Ottoman artisans were very talented and skilled at making those ceramics very beautiful, like the one we see here. Okay, in this illustration, we see Ottoman merchants trading in ceramics. Okay, and those are the bits of essential knowledge that we need to know for Standard 5A.